G'day everyone, Tarun Freestone coming to you live and direct from Sydney, Australia, out to wherever you are in the big wide world, bringing you my wacky interpretations of the week that has been and the week that's ongoing in the crypto space. Now, I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. This is for entertainment purposes only, and I will never reach out to you in direct messages, in YouTube comments. So please also do your due diligence when buying crypto assets, as it is dangerous and you could get wrecked. So we've had a big week in the space. Current trading price of XRP is $2.20 US, and we've really just come and bumped up against that line of sort of that trend line that I've drawn out for the last few weeks here. And I don't foresee us breaking through unless we get some big inflows into those ETFs. But speaking of those ETFs, how good has it been? I've loved seeing the various trackers out there, the ones that are covered on Good Evening Crypto and Jake Claver, Zach Rector. They all refer to the same tracker. I'm not using that particular tracker. I'm referring to XRP Insights because it just quickly shows you what is locked away and what is the total assets under management of the 5 ETFs in terms of that round number of XRP locked away. Bitwise is in the lead at the moment on combined daily trading volumes from yesterday. The time is 5:47 Australian Eastern Standard Time. So we are 4 hours before basically 7 a.m. in New York's time. So that's East Coast time, EST, East Coast time. I am really surprised that Franklin Templeton didn't come out the gates heavier, but I'm sure as the weeks grow on, that will be the one that brings in the big money for the ETFs. So much to cover today. It's going to be a bit more free flow. I'm just going to go through the things that have jumped out at me. I have a wonderful X channel here. Please give it a follow and also like and subscribe to this video so that we can push my content out there to more and more people in the digital asset space. I was just going to start talking about the varying, everyone's got 50-50. We're either going up or we're either going down with both Bitcoin and XRP. I did notice that the reverse Kramer trade is in effect. He did say that this is a very bearish sign for Bitcoin when it hit 83K. And since then, we've had a leaked Fed chair announcement and it's gone back up to 91,000. So the reverse Kramer trade is in full effect, giving out lots of love to all of the people that I reference here on my reposts. So Mr. Michael van de Pop is stipulating that we do have a long way yet to go. I offer this as my own advice. Don't take it out as anything other than entertainment and an opinion. I really believe that at this stage, after being so far along with specific actions that the big elite companies take, for example, what's going on with JP Morgan currently shorting Master MicroStrategies, which is Master ticker symbol, MSTR. Yet in February of the year that has just gone, or is just about to go, can't believe it's Christmas time already. In February 14th, I remember seeing posts about they had actually bought large swathes of MicroStrategy. So, you know, they're always playing double sides of the fence. As we know, Ripple was funding both Kamala Harris and Trump's side of the campaign with Republican donations, obviously more on the Republican side. So everyone is always playing both sides of the fence. And yeah, it's something to remember that we are always going up and to the right. My personal opinion is that currency, the fiat currency, is being debased. It's always going to be continually an inflationary asset. And the biggest thing before we get any further today is I believe that this transition to digital assets is a conversion between two mindsets for the populace. We have always been on something that is inflationary. Even gold is inflationary because you can dig up more gold and create more gold, but there will never be any more Bitcoin or there'll never be any more XRP. So this is the first time in history that humanity will be structuring onto a deflationary asset, which is the simple mindset of today I need to make the money I need to spend it today because tomorrow it won't be worth as much and I won't be able to get as much. Whereas we're going into the mindset of the exact opposite, which is I better hold off what I've acquired today, spending it, because tomorrow it'll be worth more. So you'll have a more frugal mindset moving forward. But all those existential questions aside, let's dig into the real thing, which is let's have a look at price movement. As I mentioned, the Fed announced the chair, or leaked the chair, sorry, I should say. The Bitcoin therapist, shouts out to him. He's just touched on this video where a lot of dollars have been moving off the Bitcoin ledgers of whales, yet they've been gobbled up by probably large firms like BlackRock and JP Morgan in the background. Obviously, MicroStrategy's are more forward, but all of these treasuries that are accumulating it, whether Bitcoin's going to tank because of what's been linked with Epstein recently is another thing altogether. It's just about following the behaviors, and a lot of people are happy to see 100 grand when they bought Bitcoin at $100, and we will hear that story play out with multiple different assets. I'm sure anybody who bought Zcash on the 14th of June last year when it bottomed out at $15 probably sold at $900 recently. You'll hear that over and over again, and it's always just the big institutions that are the ones that are manipulating the market for their benefit, understanding that, yes, retail will behave in a certain way with this particular commodity. Okay, let me get it back in my coffers and let me push it out to my betterment and their detriment. Upbit was hacked today, 36 million. Apparently, we're claiming it's the North Korean Lazarus Group. I very much doubt it. I actually love this great breakdown by Trix here, and Trix basically states that at some point the hacker who got into the funds on Upbit drained a few of the hot wallets, waited a bit, then started moving the funds across chains. At some point, they bridged into USDC from Solana to Ethereum through Orbridge. The liquidity there is tiny, so every 200, 300k bridge created a noticeable spread. That's where the opportunity showed up. The play was simple. You wait for the hacker's TX, and the moment he bridges, you bridge back in the opposite direction, filling the spread created by the liquidity shift he caused. Nothing crazy, but only if you were following the flow as it happened. Someone who really understands arbitrage, automated money markets, market making, and forensic analysis of transactions to understand what is being achieved when you are executing a specific amount at a specific time in a specific way on a specific market. Just great stuff. Shouts to you, Trix. Yeah, 37 million. Update: Binance XRP reserves have fallen to about 2.7 billion, one of the lowest ever. I recently saw that XRP also was down at one of the most historically oversold territories, so I did pick up more. I'm not encouraging you to do that. It's just what I did. As I've mentioned, my general rule of thumb is that get to the end of the month, whatever I have out of my net take-home salary, 12.5% into Bitcoin, 12.5% into XRP. However, this month was a bit different because I saw that XRP was on discount, so I did buy in at that low. I think I got in at around 214 with a smaller purchase, and then later on at pretty much on the dot $2. Might have been even lower. But that's entirely my decision, and I wouldn't encourage any of you to do that. Make your own decisions. You're all grown-ups and adults. I do enjoy looking at Chart Nerd, TA. Big shout out to him or her. Please give it a follow. Predicting something in the region of $15 by, I think this is monthly candles. So we would probably be into what looks like January at that stage. It's a theme out there. Everyone's calling up. Everyone's calling down. The reverse kramer trade is on, y'all.
The single worst moment in this decline was the moment between 3:30 and 4:30, and then Williams comes on, and then suddenly everything's fine. I don't think so.
He's called the bottom again, Fush.
You don't think everything.
Oh, he's called the bottom again. Also, I've touched on this in previous videos. The repo markets, $125 billion. The Fed has pumped into the big banks over the last 5 days. No one is paying attention. They haven't done that since 2020 COVID. Things are getting harsh and harder out there. Defaults are creeping up. Debt is getting unmanageable. The reverse carry trade is on. If you don't know anything about that, give Nathan Derryman, Cashew Nate, or Jake Claver a look up. They are always on the money with that. And I have another person I think I'm going to skip down to. I think it is. This is interesting. You got to keep level-headed and see both sides of the coin. $100 by end of year, sure, it can happen. Here's a perspective that indicates that it probably won't. So make sure that you are entertaining both sides of the coin. I'm open to all ends. I will come back to this. I'll just scroll down to where I have something of. Okay, well, I will look it up because that's what I can do for you. I can look it up. This guy's breakdowns are fantastic. Tanaka Anselm Pereira, you are a top G, bro. You are just crushing it. Everything. I believe. I believe you're Sri Lankan. I know the Pereiras, Portuguese, and seem to be a Southeast Asian brother like myself. And yeah, look, your breakdowns are just crushing it. Give this guy a follow. Go look at his Substack or his Open Stack or whatever it is that he writes incredible dialogues and breakdowns on reverse carry trade, oil, and wider macroeconomic outlooks. Just insane content. You're killing it. I think there was one that you had mentioned recently, which, yes, it was on my feed. I just scrolled past it. Breaking, S&P just declared that Tether is weak and 500 million people use it as their dollar. And a major rating agency just confirmed it cannot survive a Bitcoin crash. The arithmetic is simple. This is the unwind of Tether, depegging. And if that happens, we will see everyone flood into RLUSD, USDC, and regulated stable coins. This touches on something else that has to do in the regulation space, which was recently what happened with MicroStrategies, where the MCS or the MCI tried to take away their label and reduce the essentially what they had to do was reduce their holdings of Bitcoin to comply as someone who didn't hold over 50% of their entire business in Bitcoin. However, we've seen Michael Saylor come out and dispel those with, we do things, we actually generate money. It's all smoke and mirrors, and I'm pretty sure JP Morgan's mates had said something to those rule makers and regulators to give them an entry point on MicroStrategies, and probably they're in cahoots with Michael Saylor. Well, maybe not, but they're definitely going to use whatever they can to get ahead of the curve. And now the curve is here, and people are ETFing. I bet JP Morgan submitted SEC paperwork for leveraged Bitcoin notes Monday, the same year as the next halving. So, look, watch what they do, not what they say. Very interesting. Cool. So let's rock back. I love this old chart. Give it a read. It's for the OGs. And let's have a look. Yeah, more of a long-term view from the charting guy. Potentially June we could see $7 XRP. I have now some real heavy-hitting stuff, so I'm going to get into my call out to No Limit. Give him a follow or her a follow. I will do it right now in front of you. Loved this breakdown. It was really interesting read, and it touches on the old school chart. 2026 might be a year to offload. Encash, big shouts to Encash. Me and the family, we watch Encash a lot. And the breakdown on understanding what's locked up in ETFs, how that affects the underlying price, what is the float. Zach mentioned that it might be, Jake thinks it could be 2 billion out retail. Jake's probably the one who knows those sorts of things. And Zach was like, well, what if it was just 10 billion out there in float? And he had his most recent video breakdown that Encash does a great service to us by understanding, yes, XRP is being brought onto the market every so often by Ripple. And what does that do for the underlying asset, the underlying float? What about Evernorth locking up 1 billion? Where does that all land? I think this video you give it a watch through. I'll just start.
An XRP supply shock, considering all of the ETF approvals and also how the ETFs have been performing. And what I got back is actually quite shocking. We're going to be addressing this. We're going to be talking about it. But first, let's address a few things, because we've been hearing about a supply shock happening on XRP for a bit of time now. I would argue since about roughly the summertime. And, with a supply shock for, a project like XRP, a lot of people will just immediately look at the supply and say there's absolutely no way a supply shock can happen. But this is the difference between XRP and most other projects in the space that have a large supply. Number one, there's a lot of XRP escrowed. There's 34 plus billion XRP in escrow right now. Yes, Ripple will continuously release a certain amount every single month. We know that this is the case. However, XRP is a little bit different in the sense of even outside of the Ripple escrowed amount, you also have public companies lining up. You also have institutional players that want to lock up XRP. You also have liquidity pools on the XRP ledger that are also locking up, a certain amount of XRP. And then you also have retail buying XRP. You have a big network effect just based off of that alone, not even thinking about utility, not even thinking about institutional DeFi initiatives, things like that. XRP is in a unique position because of how much demand there is for XRP that also heightens the probability of a supply shock happening. Now, when it comes back to XRP, the biggest thing that everyone has been saying is, public supply is dropping in a big way. And that mainly goes back to exchanges and how much supply exchanges have. Again, going off of the balance alone, these are the top wallets. We could see, and by the way, exchanges, there's multiple exchanges here. Like we could go and look down the list. But the main thing that we're looking at with a lot of these exchanges is that, there's really not a crazy amount of XRP on a lot of these exchanges. Even Binance only has a little over 2 billion compared to, other projects that have a massive,
It's important to recognize, as Zach Rector has pointed out, even though you might have 2 billion on exchange, doesn't mean they have 2 billion. It could be others holding XRP on the hot wallet. They could be locked up in yield bearing, accounts that people can sign into. I know KuCoin does it a lot. I know Crypto.com in Singapore does it a lot. You can earn money by risking a particular asset, and I'm sure that's being done with XRP in the DeFi protocols that exist out there on exchanges. So just because they have it on their account does not mean that they have full access to all those amounts.
Pool of tokens on some of these exchanges. It's interesting to see how much supply is getting eaten away. Real quick before we continue on with the video.
Yeah, look, give it a watch through. I thought it was really compelling, that first part where he came to. This is more of the XRP ETF terminal watch track lists, and I love this one as well. It's fantastic. I will be pivoting between this one and that one. This one has a bit more of a running total, an understanding of where the price is at for each of them, and this one is a little bit more in-depth, to be brutally honest. However, I love the fact that this is the first thing you see for this is great, but it just tells you how it is. This is how much. Can you imagine where we're going to get to if we have 2 billion locked up and we only have a float of 10 billion? Let's just go with and say there's 10 billion XRP available out there. Eventually, over the next year, and this leads into what I've done, which is a bit of experimental work and breakdown of what the multipliers could be for this exact scenario. So at 100x multiplier, which is not that crazy, we've seen a 1,200 multiplier effect in the XRP price when it was dumped most recently. I think it was 24th of June last year. What was $7 billion of inflows against the floating supply of 10 billion XRP due to the price? There is, lots of research by Zach Rector, and I just go on search for previous conversations. I'd done this based on JP Morgan's prediction regarding 14 billion in total against both Solana and XRP. They actually stipulated that it was 8 billion. This is through our Australian crypto news. And even if it was 8 billion, I'm just being conservative. I didn't actually know. I thought it was 7 each equally. Let's say the effective floating supply of XRP is 10. This was very conservative. This is equating that we may drop down there to $2.10. Market cap of floating of 20.8 billion. So an impact of 7 billion in the first year. This is the first year. It may have an increase on cap size of 700 billion. So what would that mean? That would mean a price of $72 of XRP. Why the 100x multiplier makes sense for XRP? Zach Rector's research and our previous analysis, XRP strikes, it shows a 100 to 200x multiplier during volatile periods. This isn't theoretical, it's based on actual observed price action. The 10 billion float creates concentrated impact. Every dollar has 5.7 times more impact than calculations using the 57 billion circulating supply suggested. Triple catalyst effect. The ETF buying pressure is locked supply. The RLUSD does have semi-permanent lockup on liquidity and the transaction burn, which was based on Encash's XRP scan running at about, what was it, 14 million are gone forever. It's crazy. Comes back to that early theorization I have about a conversion between we have an inflationary mindset, now we're going to a deflationary one, which I think helps the frugality of the world and is more existential questions about like, we're custodians, and if we hold on longer, we give more and get to reap more, which I think is a healthier mindset anyway, rather than, oh, I better use it now or it's worth less tomorrow, which is literally the mindset that we have from our form of currency, which is ever inflationary, all types, even gold, theoretically. So comparison frameworks, if it was just 50x multiplier, then we have a $37 XRP. This is for $7 billion inflows for 50x multiplier 100 equals 72. 200, 142 per XRP. Why this is a little more realistic than it sounds is because your previous research has showed that with 10 billion effective float, 30 days of buying at 4 to 7 billion represents 16 to 28% of the entire tradable float. Now that is a lot of money to get through, and I don't anticipate us to be pumping out 300 million. I think it's been alive 11, 12, 13 days. I really don't think that that is going to be the case. 300 million over the first 13 days. We'd be lucky to be able to replicate that over the next 20. There's your first 30 days gone. You may be lucky to get $500 million. The way things are going. I could be wrong. I'm interested, and I do subscribe to Jake Claver's theory of the inflection point. Before I let you go, remember, this is not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. Please consult a financial advisor if you want to buy crypto. It is at times a risky product and can get you wrecked. I will never offer to sell you anything. This is just for entertainment purposes. This is also a lot is dependent upon the way in which sort of people anticipate the tradable float to be. If it really is only 10 billion effective float, not the 56 or 60 billion that we know is out there in circulation, these are the sorts of things that people don't understand about circulating supply versus, well, I guess just generic tokenomics and how value is really equated towards market cap. People were talking about, I can't go to, $100 by end of year because of $6 trillion market cap. Yeah, but that's 100 billion, and we know 34 billion is currently locked away. So effective market cap is different to theorized market cap. Just back into why this is more realistic, just to cover it off again. 4 to 7 billion, that would be 16 to 28% of the entire 10 billion tradable float. Bitcoin ETFs only purchased 2.3% of the circulating supply. XRP faces a 7 to 12 more concentrated buying pressure. The key insight, unlike Bitcoin's one-time digital gold investment thesis, XRP has perpetual demand for a payment settlement infrastructure component, and that compounds the ETF effect. At $72, XRP's market cap would be 720 billion, still less than Bitcoin's current market cap, despite having superior utility for institutional payments. It's all theories until it's not. And we are living in the greatest moment at this time to be an XRP holder. So hope you guys hodl, stick in there, and I'll try and get one more out over the weekend. So catch you later.